And yeah. All right. Oh yeah, Ken. Okay. Now you have your screen's a little messed up because you moved them around.
My screens?
Where's your? This one needs to go to the front.
Okay. Watch me fix that.
Thank you. Awesome.
Boom chakalaka. Wow. Woo! So if somebody tried to talk to me on YouTube, I don't see where they could.
Well, we're not going to worry about that tonight. We're going to watch Facebook, and you're going to stop pushing the buttons.
Okay. All right. So if you want to talk to us on Facebook.
Facebook. There. See, look at you already have. Oh, look at Ken has a friend. Ken has a friend on there.
Lakeview Rule. All right. So.
Okay. Want to introduce? Well, let me introduce you.
Okay.
All right. This is Ken's Law and Disorder. And this right here is Ken Goldberg. He, well, he used to have a radio show a while back on 97.1 called Ken Goldberg's Law and Disorder. Wow. And he decided
what channel was that?
Wasn't it on 97.1?
No, it was 105.9.
Oh, I apologize. 105 point what?
7.
I don't know. Back in the day, he was on the radio. I was never on the Eagle. I thought you were.
No, that's Russ Martin.
Oh, but then he transferred back to the Eagle. Okay. I'm following, you know. So anyway, Ken is let me tell you a little bit about Ken. He is an ordained Buddhist monk, but he practices Buddhism, but he is no longer a monk. And he is an attorney in 3 states. This guy right here is pretty smart, which is really.
I know.
Okay. And
you're gonna hurt my feelings.
He has nightclubs.
That was degrading.
And he's owned gun ranges. So he is quite a character here. And we both have been sober for quite a while in a 12-step program. Very grateful for that. There you go. I introduced you. Ken Goldberg. Ken Goldberg's Law and Disorder.
With his co-host, AJ.
That's me.
Sober over 30 years.
Yeah, I know. I got sober at 10.
And she's a real yogi. She does that Kundalini yoga teaching.
Oh, very good.
Went to India recently and spent time getting trained in that arena.
Awesome.
And a former school teacher and former.
Don't say it.
But what's important tonight is we have another something in common we've never discussed. And adoption, foster kids, sharing the love.
Sharing the love.
So I didn't prepare for tonight's show.
Neither did I.
She never does.
I do. I read the articles he gives me.
She reads articles I prepare. Yes, that's okay. So
he gets the articles I read now.
I go to the movies most every Monday and Tuesday unless work gets in the way. And I mean gets in the way. Okay. So I went to see Instant Family. It's $1.25. I never heard anything about it.
I hadn't either.
It's playing at the cheap theater.
I like
that. It's got Mark Wahlberg in it. So I looked and it got good reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. So I'm like,
oh, I do know which one you're talking about. Okay. So I saw The Real Family on a talk show. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, well, it's something about it, foster parent. Mm-hmm. Anyways, like I said, I'll for $1.25 because I'll walk out, right? So I go in and I was pleasantly surprised. And if you plan on seeing the movie, which you don't, there are no spoiler alerts per se. So I'm sitting there and it starts out with this young white couple, relatively young, haven't got any kids. And his brother and sister-in-law, they're maybe going to have a kid. Yeah, the whole thing about when are you guys going to have kids?
Right.
That whole awkward thing.
Well, considering I never had kids.
And I never had kids.
I know exactly.
Right. So we had that.
I realize that. You're right.
Yeah.
We both have adopted. Okay.
So,
gotcha.
So in the movie, how did they come up with the, she goes online for some reason and finds this website where kids who are available for, I know, they're talking about age, and he said, I always wanted kids. You said the time wasn't right. So then what happens is he makes some offhand remark about, well, we should adopt a 5-year-old, then the age thing will be caught up. Because I should have had a baby 5 years ago.
Okay, that's
so
funny.
He comes home that night. She's on a computer. She's looking at kids who are up for adoption.
Right.
for foster kids.
Sure.
I have done this. So I'm like, oh, well, back when I was looking to adopt, they didn't have computers, but you went and you looked at
Oh my God.
pages and
Yeah.
pages of children.
Wow.
So back,
I mean, that just right there is sad. I mean, that just makes me sad.
Yes. And I wrote a blog on this, but I wanted to discuss it with AJ because we have some common experience. So I'm watching the movie, and then so he at first he's like, nah, and then they go to an orientation. I've been to one. I've been to an adopting parent, foster parent orientation. You got to take classes. I did the classes, by the way. So I'm like, I'm relating to this movie. Listen, I love Alita, but I didn't relate to being a cyber person. So they land up getting siblings, which I relate to, and a teenage girl and two other kids. They take them in.
So now they have 3 kids,
yes,
and they've never had kids
from 0
before.
to 3. A young boy, a young girl, and a teenage girl.
Oh my God!
And so the movie's about the changes. Now, ostensibly in the movie and in reality, the children who are placed in foster care, there's 2 types.
Mm-hmm.
There's kids who are placed in foster care while their family gets its act together, and
we'll hopefully go back.
And the court follows what's called a family reunification policy, and so they'll order the parents into family skills classes, sobriety, things like that,
Right.
And then they check in. In the meantime, the kids in foster care could be group home, could be a family, and then there's a second level of foster care, and that's kids who are available for adoption. Typically, their families have already lost their rights. There's already been a hearing.
I always wondered how that worked. Okay,
in the juvenile courts or the family courts, depending upon what state you're in, where they actually terminate the parental rights of both parents. So now the kid is obviously available.
Okay, no, this sounds stupid, but is that like, how do they word that? The state owns them? I mean, how's that worded?
Parental rights are terminated, kids available for adoption.
Okay.
So they're emancipated, and if they're old enough, they might be emancipated. Okay. So sometimes the kid is in the late stages of having their parents' rights terminated. So they're placed with a family with the hope that this family will be a forever family. Gotcha. And for those of you that live in Dallas, and I suppose elsewhere around the country, we got this thing, I think it's called, it's on Wednesdays on one of the channels. They have a kid, they highlight a kid.
Oh, yeah.
They'll show them ball.
But most of the time, they're special needs kids.
You're jumping ahead of me.
Oh, I apologize. Okay, I jumped ahead.
So this family wanted to engage with kids who are available for adoption. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so they identify and they get these 3 kids, they move in, and they're a handful. You can imagine, right? They're Hispanic, the parents are white, there's the issues, there's all kinds of issues.
Did the kids talk Spanish to each other and then the parents had no idea what they were saying?
The teenager would talk Spanish to the children sometimes. And so they got all kinds of issues. I give, for instance, the teenager would get all engaged in trying to mother the 2 little ones because she had been caring for them since she was 10.
Absolutely.
Because the mother's in jail, the mother's a drug addict. So the family is trying to wade through, the white woman, I don't know how it's the mother.
Foster mother,
thank you.
Welcome.
She's trying to be a parent, and this girl, this teenager, is interfering and trying to be the parent.
Right.
And, so there's the whole discussion about why that's taking place. What do you do? And so they keep cutting to a support group for all these parents. And some of it's funny, some of it's sad. Anyways, throughout the movie, they cover a variety of things. And I wrote this blog, they get into a discussion about the fact that when they get these kids, they're living with a family that ostensibly is just doing it for money.
Right. And a lot of people don't know that. If you're a foster parent, you get paid for each kid.
Right.
And that's a lot of times the problem because people are just bringing the foster parent kids in just to get a paycheck.
Unless you're me. I was foster parent.
Different.
I didn't get any money.
You're different. Yeah.
Hi, Kathy, Susan. Now I entered the system trying to parent as a single parent, male. And so when you do that, you sign up with the state, and of course what they really want are families. They want a mom, a dad, they want, so they really weren't sure what to do, but they get it. And they have what you call HTP, hard to place kids.
Right.
Those are the older ones or special needs. And so I get the invitation to come to an adoption event or a placement event on the south side of Chicago. So I go. I think I living on the south side? I don't know. Anyways, I went to this event. There is nothing more heartbreaking possibly in the world than this type of event. It's in the basement of a church. There's dozens of kids running around.
Okay,
all
I'm
ages.
sorry, I couldn't handle that. I
And
don't know. If
you
I
know,
could
they've got
handle
games
that.
for them. They've got staff, and you're supposed to kind of walk around and mingle. And then at some point, you have an appointment. You go upstairs, and there's caseworkers, and they're interviewing you.
I couldn't do
And so
this.
you can tell them, did you see anybody downstairs? Did you see anybody in the books, which would be the equivalent of the computer now? And so I'm like, I didn't see anybody specific. They all grab your heart.
Right.
And she says, well, what are you looking for? And I said, a boy. I mean, I don't expect they're going to give me a girl.
Right.
I'm not that interested. Give me a boy. How old? Not an infant.
Right.
What about race? Any race. I really don't care.
Right.
And she's like, well, you don't expect to adopt a black boy, do you? And I said, what do
Why
I care?
not? Yeah.
She says, well, I don't believe in that.
Yeah, they don't.
She shuts down the conversation. Because I said to her, wait a second, but all the kids down there were black and Hispanic. What did you invite me here for? She was like, and I'm like, then what was this? Just want to rip my heart? So I leave and I filed a complaint with the Department of Children and Family Services of Illinois and said, I don't know where you get this policy.
Right. It's ridiculous.
Why would you me through what you did if you had this policy?
Yeah.
So they get back to me and they say, we don't have that policy. That was her policy. She should not have done that. We want to do something to make it right. We're going to refer you to one of our contracted agencies, Lutheran Welfare Services. Okay.
Yay, Lutheran.
Smaller, more manageable. You'll get better attention. Bing, bang. Okay. So off I go. They invite me to an orientation. And I'm sitting around a room and I am the only single person in the room. It's all couples, right? And this lady does an hour-long presentation on foster care with the anticipation of adoption. And so she's talking. I finally, any questions, at some point.
Right.
What? I said, well, are you going to get to talking about, my situation? Yeah. I'll save some time for that. Okay. She talks. Shh. Last 2 minutes, she says something about single parent adoption. The whole hour I'm sitting there, she's talking about babies and all of that. It was so, here I am. I'm like, oh man, So I just dropped out of the system. And then, as I wrote in the blog, a couple of years later, I think it was a couple of years later. Maybe it was at some point. Yeah, it was that later. Danny was a client of mine in the juvenile court.
Wow.
Okay. Danny was
How old
10,
was he? 10
at the time he was arrested and charged with a variety of crimes. I did not represent him on his true innocence or guilt phase. For whatever reason, I don't know who did represent him. And God, this is 20 plus years.
Wow.
I was assigned for his sentencing. So I get this cute boy, quiet. His mother, just, she's there. She's present. Yeah. I mean, I didn't get that impression. Okay. So we're getting him psychologically tested. We're trying to see what's appropriate for him. What kind of services? Because if you're under 13 in the state of Illinois, you cannot be incarcerated for a crime. You can be removed from your home and placed with the state. Okay. But you cannot be incarcerated in a penal institution.
Okay, yes.
Okay?
Yeah. So it's like a detention center or something?
No. Since he was under 13.
Would he go to a home?
Well, so yes, you're supposed to, but Illinois, and I imagine most states, when you first are admitted into the system, the foster care system, you're placed in a group home. They just don't have enough homes for all these kids.
Right.
In a group home, I can tell you from experience, is chaotic. You got kids of all ages. You got and youngins. The older ones sneak out. They bring in cigarettes, drugs, whatever. Kids are running away. Kids of this, kids of that. And kids get beat up. They get picked on because there's no.
Whatever. Yeah.
Right. So I look at Danny. Danny was now 11. when it was time for the judge's decision, he was still just a little boy, very innocent looking. He was a thief. So who
Is that what the whole thing was?
with-
He was
yeah,
a
yeah.
thief. Yeah.
Great backstory. Okay. By the way, when I was a teenager, I got a hold of a parking meter in Chicago
Ah.
with the anticipation of getting the money out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I stole it. Somebody else stole it, couldn't get in it, gave it to me. Me and Preston and John and some other people, we had it in the alley. We got a hammer. We hit that.
It didn't
hard-
open, does
It
it?
didn't open.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a vault,
Yeah.
right? Now they've changed the design. Danny is in court. He's been walking around with a screwdriver, opening up
Mm-hmm.
parking meters and getting the money.
I had a friend that got arrested for that too. He actually had the key.
Yeah, well,
And he'd
that's
empty it all, but he just wouldn't empty it all. He'd leave a little in there. But he did that for years
yeah,
and
well,
finally got arrested.
Danny got arrested coming out of a grade school, an elementary school window with some computer stuff. So he gets arrested. He's convicted. I told you I wasn't involved in that, but I was assigned as a private attorney to his sentencing phase. So the judge reads all the reports, psychological reports, probation reports, etc., and says, I order him removed from his home and placed in the care of the Department of Children and Family Services. And so I spontaneously said, well, you know what, Judge, then I would ask that you order the state to place him in my home.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge, funny guy, man, old, is like, court's going to be on recess for a few. Goldberg, come with me. Yeah, back to chambers. He's like, do you know what you're doing? No clue. It says, do you understand what you have to do? Oh, yeah, that part I understand. You know, he's like, I've never had this kind of request before. I could do it, but you really have to know,
Are you ready?
I said, I'm down. What I didn't tell him precisely was I was engaged to get married. And I hadn't quite told her yet
Okay.
because it was all kind of spontaneous.
Uh-huh.
So I had to run to a phone.
Was this a kidnapping situation?
I had to run to a phone, call Lori and say, would you mind if I brought this kid home? And she said, I knew that getting involved with you, I would have to face this at some point. I just thought it would be after I lived with you, not before.
Right.
She thought we'll get a little time together. I'm like, I'm sorry, the timing is. So the judge ordered them to place the child with me until they found a foster family, i.e. not a group home.
Okay.
Okay. So Danny came to live with me. He only ended up being there a year because once the system's got him out of somewhere comfortable, they don't care.
Right.
There's so much more to the story. Anyways, he was with me. So eventually he moved on. And I mentioned in my blog, I've never been able to find him since he was returned back home. I saw him once, begged him to help me, let me come up with a plan because he went back to his mama's house, which they had moved, but I walked in there and it was chaotic from the get. I mean, there were people all over the place.
That's sad.
The sisters all had their boyfriends living there, etc. So, and then I was a little brother, and then I landed up adopting. So I'm watching this movie, and it's tugging at the heartstrings.
Sure it
it's
is.
supposed to.
Absolutely.
I thought everybody was doing a pretty good job. The families of the family, the white couple,
Yeah.
their extended family, the grandparents and stuff, they're all interacting, and it really kind of, it's cool.
Very cool.
And I'm not going to tell you exactly how it ends, but there is the whole reunification issue that arose. And man, so I came back and I immediately sat down, which is why I'm not prepared. This is a long-winded way of saying two things. One, I wanted to talk about this with AJ. The other was, this is why I don't have the show prepared, because I decided to go to the movie, and then instead of coming back and preparing, I sat down and wrote about.
Right.
So you had an experience. So what was your experience?
Well, my experience was, I taught inner city high school in Oak Cliff for 12 years. I was at Molina High School and then Sunset High School. And then in the 9th grade, this sort of thug was in my room. And I started noticing he was a little bit different than the other kids. He didn't have as much. And he Anyway, so he ended up that one day he came to me and asked me if he could have $5 so he could go to McDonald's because they were having beans and rice at school that day. And he says that's all he eats at home were beans and rice, beans and rice. And he said if he was going to turn into a great big bean is what he told me. So I gave him the $5 for him to go to McDonald's, and that sort of started our friendship. And I fell in love with this kid. He was just awesome. He became my son. At that point, he did not have citizenship. He is now legal and graduating college. And it's amazing because here's this kid who never in a million years, would ever go to college or ever think of going to college, but was given the opportunity and just took it and ran with it. And I love him. I mean, he's my son. I don't even know what to say. I was just with him this week. Dingleberry broke his phone. I had to get another phone for him. Right.
And you and I both spent time with young people.
Yeah.
I became a social worker in Chicago, primarily at first on the north side, and then again on the south side, actually not far from where I grew up. And
it's so similar to teaching. It really is.
Yeah.
It's the same thing because when you're teaching down there, it's the same thing. You're dealing with these kids, and most of them don't have food. They don't have coats. They might have one pair of shoes.
I will tell you one distinction. Since it was not school, it was the streets. Right. I was on their territory, not mine.
Exactly.
So my health, safety, and welfare was often at
Absolutely.
risk.
Absolutely.
But I went into their homes more than a lot of them, more than say you would, because I was
working on the street,
and I was making $5,000 a year. So if you invite me home to eat, I'm in.
Right.
And
especially if it's homemade Mexican food. I don't know.
No, it was all Puerto Rican.
Oh, okay. Well,
it's mostly Puerto Rican, and so I would go into homes con abuela, and she would grandmother. She would be cooking, and I'm eating whatever it is. I can't afford to get involved in the finesse of, do I like this?
Right,
not?
You're going to eat it.
Yeah.
Well, plus you don't want to upset the grandmother.
No.
Or mama. Or
so
papa.
One home I went to was, I wanted to clear my plate. I mean, I wanted to help out and like wash my plate. They get to the kitchen at least, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What a mistake. Ay, Dios mío. Oh, the cockroach everywhere.
Oh,
yeah. So anyway,
la cucaracha.
I kept going back. And then if you're a North Sider, Trooper, if he's still here, I don't know if he is. Trooper grew up in that area, Lakeview. And there was this restaurant called Hamburger King. I don't know why it's called Hamburger King. They weren't king of the hamburger. And it was a Japanese guy. And
oh my God, the Japanese guy was king of the hamburgers.
And probably the most popular item on the menu was rice and gravy.
Okay.
For $1 or something. When I would get off work, well, even if I went off work, because I'd work till midnight 1, because the gang kids, they're just getting warmed up around 10. I would go over to Hamburger King to get this cheap bowl of rice. And I'm sitting there one evening, it's 11:30, I remember, and the cockroach is walking across the counter.
Right.
Excuse me. Yes? I said, there's a cockroach on the counter. And they got barehanded.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, that's different.
Disgusting.
So,
and you still ate there, didn't you? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Well, wait. So about 15 minutes later, door opens, and it's the exterminator. He's coming to do his routine, right? And the Japanese guy says to him, I call him Japanese. He was American.
Asian?
Yeah. Well, he was American. And he said, hey, you're just in time. They're taking over my restaurant.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So, I still ate there.
Oh, my God.
But under protest. So, you're working with these kids, and, some of them, their families were so dysfunctional. Some of them incredibly functional, because I can remember families where, I'm working with Frankie. Frankie's completely dysfunctional gangbanger, right? But his sisters in college, his brothers in the church choir and stuff. And you're like, so what happened to Frankie, man? How does it happen? The parents both work. So there were families like that. there were families that were just so down. I mean,
Yeah, no, that's not with Brian. Okay, with my adopted, no, it wasn't like that. He was the first to graduate high school from his family. He was to really speak English. His parents had first or second grade education. It wasn't like that.
oh well,
And his
Frankie's
parents
family
are-
wasn't educated. It was now Frankie and his siblings
right. No,
were
Brian
coming
was the
into
first. So now it's a trend. Now the next one's graduating, and the next one underneath him is nephews and everything. So that's great.
Well, knock on wood. I hope my kids graduate college someday. I'm not particularly optimistic, but
I understand, but high school I'm sorry, but for inner city families, that's a big deal. High school, okay, that's huge. And a lot of those families, they never graduated high school; they had to quit to work and take care of the family, and so that's a big deal. Just graduating from high school. you
so,
know,
and I also became a big brother of Chicago, and I still am to the, we were matched. He was 8 years old. He's 45 now. That's a long time,
Yeah.
right? He's my brother now. So, I don't know. I don't know what the point of it is, except that there's a lot of people like us out there.
yeah.
Most are probably, if they're friends of ours, they're probably getting on in the years and not exactly the best time for them to become a big brother, big sisters. It might be tough to be a foster parent, but, encourage somebody else to do it then because, but the movie did a good job, a little over the top, hokey.
But it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be.
The teenage girls got issues. The boy, if you say anything to him, he gets scared. He's so used to being berated. And the little girl, she just essentially screams and demands potato chips.
Oh.
And is inconsolable if you try to feed her something else. And so, now she's with a family that cares and wants her to eat nutritious. And, they're struggling with her to get to eat the right food. And she becomes completely unmanageable.
Right.
And,
I can't even imagine 3 at one time.
I have a friend in Chicago, Tom. If you ever get a chance to watch this, Tom and his wife, they adopted 3 sisters from Russia. So they not only got 3 girls, and they were relatively young. I don't remember their ages. And there's a lot involved.
Well, they weren't spoiled if they were coming from Russia. They weren't eating potato chips.
No, they were living in an orphanage, as I recall.
Oh, wow.
And Tom, the process, this is before Russia closed the doors.
I was going to say, because so many other places have. Hasn't China closed the doors to
adoption?
adoption?
This whole thing with adoption in Russia goes back to this whole issue with the president. Anyways.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of the act that got passed. So they would have to go over, spend time visiting, being with. Then when they identified the 3 sisters, they got to go to Russia, not downtown. It's not,
right.
Yeah, they got to go to Russia, spend time.
Even if you go to, that's how remember in the 80s, 70s, it was a big deal to adopt little Chinese girls and everything. And Asian. You don't remember that?
In the 70s.
80s? Seriously, so many people were adopting little.
I have a friend that got some Korean children, but they closed that door too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that a lot of it was closed.
Because bad publicity. And then there was the one kid from Russia. The family had adopted more than one at various times, and they sent one back with a note. Did you not know about it? Yeah, it was.
No.
She lived in North Carolina or something. She decided she couldn't handle him. She'd already adopted him, so this was completely illegal. This wasn't like, I changed my mind. I'm not going to adopt. She supposedly contacted an uncle in Russia and put this kid on a plane.
No.
Yeah, that was a scandal. Oh, he was young. He was 10, 11 years old.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. No,
what kind of woman would do that?
Well, the woman that did this.
Holy
I don't know what kind. I never met her. So,
oh my God. It's not like you're adopting a puppy. You are adopting a child. It is a completely different scenario. Oh my God. You can't give him back. You can't give him back.
I know you can't.
Oh my God.
It's like the same thing with pets. You're not supposed to take the pet back, but people do.
Oh my God.
So they would have to go over and start bonding. And then they dedicated, this Tom and Karen are so dedicated. They studied how to bond and
Aw.
And they did everything. When they finally brought him over, they kind of cloistered around them and took off for 6 months from
Very
work
cool.
to,
Very cool.
to be with them. And the kids are in 8th, 9th, 10th. I don't know. They're not, and they, Tom and Karen. I'm not saying if they're not listening, so who cares? But I wouldn't say they spoil them, but
they
horse
fawned
riding lessons, tennis, swim.
Well, I did all that.
Oh,
Dance.
so
I did all that.
So they got 3 siblings at one time. So it can be done. I got 2, but I their mother came with them.
Oh, well, yes.
So I wasn't by myself.
Yes.
Yeah. So
so you adopted your girls when they were how old?
Well,
it was just sort of
they were there.
They
I've
were
been
there.
with them since they were 3 and 4.
Hey, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
but you know, one thing I did want to bring up that you
because they had a father, I couldn't adopt them.
Correct.
Just any old time.
I remember that. Well, he wasn't really in their life, but anyway,
but he was ostensibly
exactly. But okay, so this happened when I was living in Eagle Heights in Buffalo, New York, and outside Buffalo, and this family had 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls, well-off family, doctor and everything, and they adopted another boy. Now the entire family was blonde hair, blue eyes. The one they adopted was blonde hair, blue eyes. So it was like, looks like adorable. They did. I mean, that was a big okay. So they all looked alike. Okay, and they brought the little boy home. And they brought the little boy home for about 6 months and they gave him back. And that little boy was 5 years old. That little boy will remember that.
Well, some of these kids.
That's heartbreaking. I babysat all the time.
But in their defense, even though I'm a social worker, even though I'm a kind heart, I will say this. Some kids have been so damaged. I mean, you just, it's almost impossible to, when I was a drug company, I used to take pharmacology classes and at the time T's and blues were very big. Mm-hmm. I think T was Talwin. It was a heroin replacement on the streets.
Oh yeah.
People go out and get T's and blues on the south side of Chicago. It was kind of a ghetto thing.
It wasn't heroin.
People with money would get heroin.
People with money got cocaine.
Oh no. Heroin addicts were heroin addicts. Cocaine addicts or cocaine addicts. Yeah. So T's and blues became a real problem. And so it was included in our pharmacology classes because if you're a drug counselor, you're supposed to know pharmacology. And I remember the doctors talking about studies of children born to from mothers who are on T's and blues, kids who were born with drugs in their system. Mm-hmm. Studies had shown that the consolability factor of a child in that situation was bad.
Right.
You're supposed to be able to
and they wouldn't stop crying.
Yeah. And so that'll make you crazy if you're the caretaker.
Muscle Michael shares about that because his mother was an alcoholic and when he was born, he immediately went through DTs. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying you should get the kid back, but I'm saying that, and there's been a scandal. There's been a scandal for years here and overseas in that they don't always provide relevant information
about the
adopting family.
You are correct.
So some of them, they know already that they've been harmed in some way. And maybe it would be helpful to tell the parents.
But they don't want to tell them
because they're afraid they won't get adopted.
They're afraid.
Right. So there's a whole reluctance. And so they have health issues that appear later on, which turn out to be genetically genetics. Mm-hmm. And they don't know where to find the parents. Now, open adoption are common.
Right.
So some of
I did have a friend who did open adoption, very successful. Yeah. And the mother would come periodically and spend time with the kids. And it worked out very well for that family. I don't know much about it, but I know it did work out for that family. Mm-hmm.
Well, and now in my family's case here, I was the disturbed one. The kids were relatively normal up to a point. But if you live with me for a while and
stop it.
I'm just saying.
You are so full of it.
Can you imagine? You didn't meet me when I was really crazy.
The nightclub era?
David Brown just joined.
The nightclub era? Was that it? The nightclub air.
David worked for me at DFW Gun, and I'll tell you what he said
Oh
to
my
me
God.
when David lived here. He's in Washington D.C. When he lived here, he started coming to my meditation group on Wednesday nights at the Buddhist temple.
He still does it, and it's absolutely wonderful.
Okay, David said to me
On
and some
Stoltz
other,
Road.
yeah,
Yeah.
Stoltz Road,
Stoltz Road.
down the street from Agent.
Mhm.
So he said, well, one of the reasons he was interested in coming to my meditation, he said, based on the changes he saw in me.
Mhm. Right.
Now, I was talking at a meeting this morning. I won't say it was a 12, so don't worry about that. So I said, you know, it's taking me years to change my behavior. Those of you that knew me on the south side of Chicago, that's where I first got PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And I got it just from seeing a lot of violence, number one. No, number one, from my father being violent towards me since I was maybe 3.5, 4 years old. And then from when I started being in the streets, first off, I was little. So people were always trying to rob me, you know, kids trying to rob me.
Right.
And then as I got older, a teenager, I started hanging around. I ran away from home. I lived in the streets. You'd see people beating each other up, kicking each other on the ground.
I saw that in my school. What are you talking about?
Okay, well, you like to think help's on the way if you're in school.
No, you have 2,300 kids, and there's 3 security officers. They can't be everywhere at once.
Well,
very little help.
Yeah, and the Chicago police were no help. So I saw a lot of violence. Probably, I think, well over 100 violent incidents, working with the kids and all that. Anyways, so I've got. So they first told me I was hypervigilant in 1983.
Really?
What? Do you know about hypervigilance?
I could just it just sounds like a word that would fit you perfectly.
Well, I came out of drug treatment in 82.
Mm-hmm.
And I started seeing an outpatient therapist, which, by the way, I thought he was great. Can't remember his name. He moved to New Jersey, but he was really good. He helped me stay intact in my early recovery. And so, you know, I reported to him that I had gone up to Wisconsin one weekend. And Wisconsin is a strange place on earth. If you leave Chicago and you go up to, for instance, Lake Geneva, Milwaukee, a lot of these places, the contrast was stunning at the time. White, black, okay? So I'm not afraid of white people as much as I am black people. I grew up with black kids, and there was a lot of gang, you know, white people seem harmless to me by contrast, right? So I come back from a weekend in
well, when you're the only white
Lake
dude
Geneva.
in the middle of a sea of black dudes, I mean, come on, and Jewish, and little, and a butthead. I mean, let's just face facts.
They used to make fun of me. So I came back and I said to him, I said, you know, that for like a half a day, wasn't the whole weekend, I just didn't worry. Because Lake Geneva is a resort town.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody there is just there in shorts, you know. And, well, you know, you suffer from hypervigilance. And I go, well, what is that? You know, he said, well, you know, everything you've ever told me points to hypervigilance. Now, he didn't tell me at the time that hypervigilance is a symptom of PTSD.
Well, it's a symptom of abuse, too, right? Well, same thing.
I don't know.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Scholarly on me. I don't know. Well, so what? This was in contrast to my reporting to him that I was taking the L downtown every day for law school. I never took the L growing up. The L was scary to me. Public transportation was scaring me. Now I was taking.
Well, in Chicago, I imagine it probably was back then.
I don't know. I knew lots of people did it. I wasn't going to do it. But to go to law school downtown, there was no alternative. I couldn't afford 3 years of parking downtown Chicago. So I would take the train, and I had a lot of that other people wouldn't have.
Right.
So I'd be sitting on a train going downtown to law school.
Because you would open that.
I didn't even have to do that.
Yeah. It was the look. It was the look you gave somebody.
If you lived in Chicago, New York.
You don't
LA,
make eye contact. What are you doing making eye contact with people?
And there it is.
I grew up in New York. I know.
There it
Don't
is.
look at it.
So these punks get on the train.
Don't look at them.
And they start walking around and looking at everybody like, you know, like maybe they want to do something to them. And I'm sitting there going, what are you looking at?
Oh, that was smart. Mhm.
So now there's a encounter.
An encounter.
So my point is, I'm not comfortable.
Did you think you were maybe provoking the situation?
Listen, I was into martial arts. I was all muscle
It doesn't
at the age
matter.
of 33. I
It
never
goes
went
right
fit.
through all that.
So I didn't care.
Okay.
I didn't care.
Was this a using time?
No, I was in recovery.
Okay.
No, I just didn't care. I mean, I just didn't like bullies. My father was a bully. Kids in the playground, O'Keefe grade school were bullies. A lot of these gang kids were bullies.
When you were sort of
I
naked
didn't
in the
like
pool, you were
bullies.
bullied.
Right. So I didn't like bullies. So if you came on my train car and you were walking around the car like you were going to hurt somebody, I took exception with that.
I understand.
And so I had some. But wait a second. Let's jump ahead. I had the same problem on the plane when I went to Chicago.
You just did. I mean, is there any growth at all from that far ago to today? You had the exact same problem. You opened that on the plane and you shouldn't have opened that right there.
I lost my train of thought. She just brought me back to it.
Mm-hmm.
So the train of thought was, I mentioned in recovery that I have modified my behavior significantly in the last several years due to mindful meditation, being sober and all that. Mostly through mindful meditation, because I've been sober before and I was still,
a basket case.
Well, I was hardwired for aggression.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I said in this group this morning that 2 days ago I came to this realization that my mind is still harsh. There's a lot of harsh thoughts that come in. So I'll be bicycling along, right? And somebody gets too close to me, a car, right? And I don't just shrug it off immediately. My first thought is, I wonder how they would feel if I punched their head in.
Oh, I always think, what am I going to do when I kick them with my boot on the motorcycle?
Well, that's another option. I usually think of dragging him out and teaching him.
Yeah, I stop it. I'm going to kick the car with my boot.
Now, I've learned over a period of time that that's not a particularly helpful.
It's not.
Right? Anger.
No.
But and so eventually I'll change, but I'm beginning to wonder, can you change and a psychologist said, good luck with this one. Can you just not have those thoughts?
No, that's bullshit. But everybody has, people who often are in recovery, that they have the wacky thoughts, and your first thought you don't go with, you throw that out and you go for the next one. For me, it's not my first thought. I go with, it's not my second thought. I go with my third. I throw them out because I know usually the first two thoughts are not going to, when I'm angry, are not going to get me in the right place. So I throw those first two thoughts out.
Well,
you know that. They tell you that. Throw those thoughts away.
They didn't tell me that.
Oh, you've never heard that?
No, but it doesn't matter. What I do now is, first off, I try not to act on my thoughts. And then second of all, those that know me,
first thought
those
way,
that
not
know
act.
me in from meetings and stuff, I usually, for a number of years now, I will call somebody older, more subdued, and go,
well, that's getting rare.
And I will say, yeah, I know. I will say,
what are you gonna do when you're the oldest? You're gonna have to go somebody younger. I'm sorry.
Well, this guy that came to meetings occasionally, he disrespected me, and
is this perceived in your head?
No, this was for real. This was personal too. I mean, he unloaded on me in a restaurant after a meeting, and so I apologize. So this is not what I didn't mean to offend you when I said that.
Oh, that was nice. Okay, you made your amends. That was good.
And then he said something crappy to me.
Yes, but when you make amends, you can't. You've cleaned your side of the street. Whatever they do is
now
their
what's
business.
left?
So you walk away.
So now he disrespected me again.
No, you walk away.
So he walked out of the restaurant first, and then I walked out. And I thought, I really tell him, if he ever talks to me like that again, I'm gonna light him up. Wait a second, you're not.
I'm listening.
So I had my bicycle like I always do, and I thought, so I rode over to him and apologized again.
Oh my God, I am so proud of you.
And he went, yeah.
That's okay. It doesn't matter what they say.
I spent the next week plotting his demise.
I believe that. I believe that. However,
I wasn't good again, so he left and went back to his hometown.
I believe it.
I was like, I gave you 2 opportunities.
Honey, it doesn't matter. That's not the idea of an amends. It doesn't matter what they do with the amends. They can say to F you. It doesn't matter. The idea is to clean your side of the street.
Right,
What
so
they
he
do
needed
with
to
it
shut up after that. That's
doesn't
my
work that
point.
way.
Yeah, I did. I cleaned up my side of the street. Don't come crap on my side of the street. I'll slap you.
It
Make
doesn't
you-
matter. You have to see that whatever they do
Well,
is
I
what
didn't-
they
I
do.
didn't act on it.
I'm so proud of you. I can't believe it.
Well, that happens a lot.
That
First
was
off, there's a
awesome.
recognition that I am 66. Living inside of me is a very wired up young 20-something.
Yeah, well, we were
Which-
just talking about that. I think I'm in my 30s still. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm in my 30s still. I do not feel like I'm in my 50s.
When I first got into recovery,
I know that's hard to believe, people.
I came to the conclusion there was a 6-year-old boy inside of me running my life.
Oh, I
This
believe that.
damaged 6-year-old kid.
Yeah.
So first several years of drug-free sobriety, I really tried to
Nurture
soothe-
yourself.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Take care of your inner was the big word
Yeah,
back then.
and nobody actually told me that then, but I just
Well, who the hell were you talking? How do you not know? When you were in our 12-step program, you never take your first thought. You throw that thought out and you go with the second.
12 steps different. So
Oh my God.
so I did that, and you know I went back out after about 14 years. Got high for off and on for 10 years. Came back, and that 6-year-old really hasn't been in charge. Now there's this 22-year-old in charge,
Okay, well,
right? And
you're getting a little better.
a little better,
Mm-hmm.
but the 22-year-old that still has a lot of dark thoughts, and you know, so what happened on the airplane? I was telling you. So what was this? 2 months ago, when you know two guys from Texas were just being obnoxious to this one little Asian guy
Right.
because he put his luggage behind us, and so when we were trying to get off the plane, he was trying to go that way while everybody was trying to go that way. And one guy just unloaded on him. And
Right.
one guy said something, but then he stopped. Another guy just, you know, until finally I said, well, you know, you've said it now.
Right.
You've said repeatedly. So don't say it anymore. Period. I didn't raise my voice or anything, you know. And then the guy told me I was none of my business and I shouldn't have anything to say about it. And, you know, I didn't agree with him.
What did you say to him? Let's hear the whole story.
He said, well, you need to be quiet. And I said, well, that's not going to happen.
Okay.
And he was being excitable. I wasn't excited.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't open his mouth again. He kept turning around, looking at me because he was walking in front of me. The Asian guy was in the middle, and he kept looking back at me like he wanted to say something, but he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But my thing is this hypervigilance that I was referring to apparently makes you completely aware of these things because I know people
You don't
that
like
fly,
people's being wrong.
I know people that fly all the time. And they say they've never seen anybody go off on another
No,
passenger.
I have.
Have you?
Yeah. My favorite story of flying is when I get on the plane, I'm flying up to see my sister, and about halfway up, okay, in the sky, going to Buffalo from Dallas, this woman takes all her clothes off in the back of the plane. She strips naked and runs up and down the aisle, butt naked. Okay, so I look at the guy next to me and I go, she must not have taken her medicine today. Okay, because I thought it was hilarious. Because here's this, she was a good looking lady too, running butt naked. And I guess people were afraid because she was like, I got to get off the plane. I got to get off the plane. And she's running butt naked up and down the aisle. And so they finally tackled her in first class and threw a blanket over. And
See, you said finally.
Mhm.
See, the first time you run past me naked, somebody got to get off the plane, you're done.
you would have liked this one running past you naked. You would have been
Yeah,
like,
but
okay, maybe she'll run
no,
past again.
No. I'd have been, see, I don't fly well. You start talking about getting off the plane and we're in the air. My perception is you might go for the door.
Well, I
And-
didn't. That's, I
and I
guess, what
saw
people
that
were
movie.
thinking.
I saw that movie. It ends poorly, right? So one time she gets to run by one time, she's done.
Other
She's
people were
tackled.
thinking this crap. Other people thought, oh, there's a bomb on the plane. Oh, she's going to. I just looked at I looked at the guy next to me. I go, well, I don't think she took her medicine today, because it just didn't dawn on me that she was a good looking woman. I didn't think that she had just lost it. They arrested her as she got off the plane.
Yeah, there's situations
wrapped in her blanket.
I'm not good at. Anything that makes me feel vulnerable is not a source of amusement, it's a source of consternation. So, but mindful meditation and practicing mindfulness. So mindfulness, we've talked a little bit about it, but let's be clear, because in the United States, we're kind of co-opting the word mindfulness.
Yes.
But it's derived from the time of the Buddha. On the time of the Buddha, one of the things he taught about adhering to, Buddha, right here in flashing lights. One of the things about the Buddha that's noteworthy is getting into the reality of things, right? How do you get to the reality of things? I realize now that I've been meditating for years that most of my thoughts, like you said, get rid of the first one, get rid of the second one.
Yes.
I didn't know that there was a 24-hour circus going on between my ears.
How did you not know that?
I didn't know. I believe me.
I've known that since my 20s, that I've had this mind that doesn't work like most people's, that I have had to throw away that first thought. And now they tell you in 12-step, throw away the first thought. For me, I have to throw away 2 thoughts. And then the third one, I'm like, okay, is this one all right?
Well, first off, you got sober 30 years ago, you've been sober, so that helps. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just, no. So
you might want to try that.
It's like a Ringling Brothers 3 and circus going on.
I get it.
So now I start meditating and I see for the first time what's going on to some degree. So there's been a gravitation, there's been a transformation. So the transformation is behavior. There was a guy in Tucson. Jim Arrington just joined. He used to go to the same meeting. There's a guy in Tucson by the name of John. And John used to say, they don't lock you up for your thoughts. They lock you up for your behavior.
Right.
So you can think anything you want. It's how you behave. And I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Okay, but see, I can't think everything I want, because then I'll just go down that dark path.
Well, but you're not behaving.
Well, but if I keep thinking that way, I might behave that way.
Well, so I don't know what John did, because he was a hot mess, but
he's taking advice from the hot mess.
Oh, yeah. But he was good. He was good in 12-step.
I'm just giving you a hard time. I understand.
And so I took that to heart, but I realized that the thoughts could be, they can be the source. They are the source of most of the self-destruction. So, I discovered this monk. The monk didn't have a student. I didn't have a teacher. We meshed.
That's awesome. I love this.
So he wanted to teach somebody meditation, Buddhism, and I didn't have anything better to do at the time. I was retired and hiking, and I was a hot mess. I will tell you, coming into recovery,
I love those.
You got so much stuff going on.
Yes.
Okay. So this guy Johnny used to hike with me. Johnny was 72 when I started hiking with him. Lean and mean, and what a curmudgeon, right? He took me under his wing. One rule: you got to be on my parking lot at 4:30 a.m. I leave at 4:35 if you're not there. Oh my God!
Oh, there's no way I couldn't do that. You get up early. Have you always gotten up?
I wanted to hike, and I was scared of rattlesnakes, so I wanted somebody to go with me. And there weren't a lot of people who go with me, but Johnny was going anyways. So we started hiking. And the reason I bring up Johnny is I
couldn't have done that.
Johnny was such a curmudgeon. But he turned to me one day after he knew me when I first came in the program, until at some point, I got into meditation and stuff. And he turned to me one day and he said, "You don't realize how much quieter you are now than you were when we
that's
first."
awesome.
Because, his thing was that when we used to hike in the early days, I just vomiting up
sure
the thoughts,
absolutely.
The feelings. And, I was just,
yeah.
Right. And then as I began to meditate and learn that, just because I thought it
right
didn't mean a whole lot. There's another guy in Tucson. I really like that group in Tucson. He used to say, when I felt bad, I thought I'd feel bad all the time. Talking about when he was drinking. And when I felt good, I thought I'd feel good all the time.
I like that, because isn't that how we felt?
Yeah. So here I am realizing that whatever I'm feeling, this too will pass.
Right. Well, that's the whole
In
idea.
fact, that's
Yeah.
funny. Jim Arrington gave me that shirt. This too shall pass.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he went to. I
That's
can't
fun.
blow his anonymity. Okay, so the shirt says
Think it
"This
just
too
did.
shall pass," and then on the back it says "It just did."
Hi, Danae.
So anyways, I'm learning. I'm learning to. So my new concept was, if I've now learned to control my behavior better, can I actually learn to control the thoughts so that I'm not?
I think they slow down.
I don't know.
I
mean,
believe that.
I
For
can-
me, they have slowed down.
some of you who are very close to me, there's not that many of you. You know about the voices in my head. There's only maybe a half a dozen people I've ever confessed this to. So why would I confess it in a video cast? Well, it'll be a modified confession. In my head,
Mhm.
are
The monkey mind.
this isn't even that.
Okay.
Are the sounds of a teenager,
Hmm.
the language, the sounds of a teenager growing up on the South Side. Here it is. I'm 66. I haven't been a teenager for a long time.
Hmm.
But the sounds, the songs in my head, the words, some of them cannot be repeated publicly.
Mhm.
People would be offended, agitated, but they come freely to my mind.
Mhm.
Now, here's good news. I'm talking about some pretty aggressive kind of dialogue, but I'll also tell you that I was riding my bicycle several times and bust out into singing some Hebrew hymn. So that came to me.
I thought you never went to temple. Where the
Oh,
hell?
no. I had to go until I was 13.
Oh, did you get bar mitzvah?
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. In my
Well,
family.
this is new to me. I didn't think you went to really temple.
No, in my family, you
So
had
you
to
had to
to
go
at
up there and
13.
read the Hebrew and
Yeah,
do all
my
that.
father embarrassed me. He made me say it louder. He kept telling me to project, but there was a microphone. So I found out later that I
You were
was like
yelling.
blasting everybody's ears.
Oh my God.
Look, it's almost the end of the show.
That's so interesting. I did not know
Oh,
this about
Domingo
you.
came, Linda came. Listen, half Hyde Park is here. The south side of Chicago.
All right,
We
South
rule.
Side.
We rule.
Southside Dallas.
Ha! So, so what was my point? How can I wrap that up if I don't know what my point?
It was about your head and your thinking.
Yeah. So the words that come into my head,
Aren't nice.
not nice, and I didn't ever look at them as nice or not nice, but I'm beginning to recognize that maybe I shouldn't let it happen. I don't know that I can do it. Like I said, I was with a psychologist at breakfast, just a friend, and
Right.
he said, good luck with that part. You know, it's one thing to change your behavior, another thing to change your thoughts. So
And I agree with him. I think they get, for me, over time, not that I don't have my moments because you've seen me, but they slow down and the thoughts they're less. They might not change, but they're less. Does that make sense?
yeah.
They're less. They're not as often. But when I have them, I literally go, okay, the first thought, second thought, let's analyze this third thought.
When I met the monk in Tucson, and I was not under control by any means. I hadn't meditated. And we would drive around. I would drive around, and somebody would get too close to me, car to car.
Right.
And I would start to do the look.
Right.
I'm gonna go over and look at them like.
Ken and his look that gets him in trouble. The eyes and the mouth get him in trouble. Just one look, and they're off on Ken. They're going to
And
go
there's
off.
this monk in saffron robes.
He's
sitting next
with
to
a
me.
monk, and he's still giving people the look.
No. He would say, well, after he figured it out, he'd say, "Don't look. You're not look."
Did you listen
Yeah.
to the monk?
He had a very thick Thai accent. Well, yeah, because you want to respect the monk.
That's
Yeah.
what I was hoping
hang
you'd
with
say.
him. So he would say, "You're not look. If you're not look."
Right.
And I never knew that.
Yes.
No, see, I never knew.
No,
don't
I get
look.
that. I get that.
I've been practicing now for 9 years. It has reduced conflict significantly. I did not know if you don't look at the other driver, the odds of getting into a shootout go down dramatically.
Okay, so I remember my 20 years in the program, and I kept getting tickets. Okay, because I always had cars and these badass sports. I kept getting tickets, and I was really upset about it one day. And Reno John comes up to me and says, if you don't push on the gas as hard, you won't go as fast. And it was like, oh yeah, all I have to do is it was I was so out of it when I first got sober. That was like a spiritual awakening to me. Oh, I don't have to go as fast. I just don't push it. How cray cray was I? Cray cray. Cray cray.
Another thing the monk happened. So I asked to be ordained as a novice at the temple in Arizona.
Right.
And so they start training me.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole routine, and so
Yeah, they didn't like your walking.
Well, that came later. At this
Mhm.
point, they're just trying to convince me that once I'm wearing saffron robes, not to pick any fights and not to get profane. So I got this monk, 10 years younger than me, right? From Thailand. His English skills very limited, who's chastising me, when you have on the robes, you may not swear at people. Yeah. I know, right? And then he was saying to me,
How many times did that happen? That you swore at somebody with your robes on?
Just one time.
Okay.
Okay.
I can't imagine getting cussed out by a Buddhist monk. Oh my God, it's hilarious.
Listen, he does what he does. He takes the risk.
Oh my God, I would never forget that. Driving down the road, looking over at this monk in clothes, flipping me off. I don't even know what to say.
This lady hit my car and pretended she didn't. She didn't see me in the car. So I let her know I was there. And then one other time we were down on 4th Avenue, which is kind of the hippy-dippy part of town, and somebody stole this homeless guy's bag. So he came out of this restaurant, he's screaming, who's got it? Well, I saw got his bag. Mm-hmm. So I said, I saw got your bag. Yeah, I'm molested.
Right.
And he's telling me, why? He's like, why didn't you? And I'm like, oh, yeah, no. Dude,
I wish we should put you in your room.
I didn't really swear
and send you out one day.
I told him to put his finger down and quiet down, because the worst thing that could happen to him was not losing your bag. I tracked down the people who had his bag, by the way.
Oh, did you give it back to him?
And so I'm following down the street trying to talk to him, and this guy, it's a guy and a girl, So they spun around, and he's like, I think I
did
said,
they freak him out when they saw it was you in a Buddhist robe?
No, the guy spun around and said, what are you following us for? I said, you took that guy's stuff. Oh, it's just a joke. Don't worry about it. I'm like, well, I'm not worried about it. He's worried about it, but this guy run off like a crazy man screaming. Right. And I'm yelling at him to come back and talk.
Did he come back again?
I don't know if they ever caught each other. Anyways, so that's the end of this episode of Law and Disorder. This is what happens. I named the show on YouTube, Chaos Reigns Supreme, because we knew tonight
we had no idea.
Be chaotic.
You never know.
So we have a YouTube channel, Ken Goldberg's Law and Disorder on YouTube, and the show will be there if you didn't see it. Mm-hmm. But then how would you know you didn't see it? Anyways.
It's always posted on YouTube, but and actually the video is much better on YouTube. It's just that we have followers on Facebook,
well, it should be good
and not YouTube,
because I'm using different cameras.
You're using different cameras. Yeah, it's better on yours.
You can check it out on Ken Goldberg's Law and Disorder Facebook. It's going to be downloaded to there.
And YouTube, you go to Ken Goldberg's Law and Disorder, and they're there also. So,
and I don't want you to think that the Ken Goldberg in the title is all about ego. No, the real reason is that my original radio show was called Law and Disorder with your host, Ken Goldberg. And after I retired unwillingly, after I got fired, somebody else in Washington, D.C. took the name and ran a show for years. So when I came back to avoid confusion, because if you go in, you put in Law and Disorder, all kinds of things.
I don't think anybody thought it was an ego thing.
But back when I had the show,
it was Law and Disorder with Ken Goldberg.
Yeah.
But it's Ken Goldberg's Law and Disorder with AJ.
Yes.
See? It has to go with.
Could you imagine how disturbing this would be if I sat here for an hour on my own? Whoa. Would that be bad news?
Did you do that on your other show? You had people.
No, I had people. I had a producer, a phone guy who had the microphone.
Yeah. You did.
A phone screener.
Yeah, there we go.
So anyways, thank you for tuning in.
Yes.
I'm going to be teaching meditation this Wednesday night at the local Buddhist temple
on Stoltz Road in Dallas. Yes. It's unbelievable. All religions are welcome. unbelievable. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous temple, and it's a beautiful place to stop by to meditate and pray.
A lot of people freak out, but what we do is we always start in the beginning. So beginners are certainly welcome. There's always beginners. We do 20 minutes sitting, 20 minutes of walking, 20 minutes sitting. And we always do meditation on loving kindness at the end.
Right.
And then you're teaching where?
Well, it's I teach at Sun Yoga, and also let's see, I have DallasYogaMagazine.com. The February edition is out soon. The March one will be.
And
Lots of
she's
great
the
articles.
owner of the
and-
Cosmic
yeah.
Yogi Festival.
Yeah, owner of Dallas Yoga Magazine and the Cosmic Yogi Festival, which is coming up in April. We do need volunteers, so you can go to CosmicYogiMovement.com. And there's a link for volunteers. Ken will be doing meditation there, a Buddhist meditation. 3 to 4 yoga classes every hour, a speaker every 35 minutes. We're having belly dancing this year. Belly dancing class. Want to take that class?
No, not even.
Drum circles, kirtan, aerial yoga, puppy Pilates, goat yoga, 70 vendors, food trucks. It is so much fun. It
And
is
so,
fun.
On a final note, if God forbid you have a legal case that's not going to drag me through the courts, an uncontested divorce, a plea bargain, wills and estates, something.
Something easy instead of the ones you've been getting.
I mean, if I was a praying man, I'd be praying, please, God, please don't keep doing this.
Buddha, please help poor Ken.
So you can call
Universe, God, Jesus. I don't know who else is up there. Allah. Who else? Oh, Krishna. How can I forget Krishna?
Why are we asking
Krishna's
me?
awesome. All of them. Just whoever's up there. Help us out.
Oh yeah. So and then the monk would say to me, when you ordain, you cannot hit anybody.
Have you hit anybody since?
No. My point is, he thought
think
that
you
I
did.
might get out of control as a novice, but I didn't much. So that wraps up the deal. I'm gonna shut it down. Or you're gonna shut it down. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. I'm shutting mine down. Okay, bye, y'all. See you next Tuesday at 6 o'clock Texas time. Bye,
Hey,
y'all.
if you want to criticize the show, you can just send us an email, ken@law-disorder.com. ken@law-disorder.com.
Or message him on Facebook.
Peace out.
Peace out.